Merry Christmas Eve, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. We are here today to look at the year that was in the world of Google Stadia. I'm not wasting any time here because this is kind of a longer video that I have planned here because we're going to be reacting to a video I did back at the beginning of the year talking about things Stadia could do to succeed in 2020. Now, before we get started, if you are new to the channel, you are interested in Google Stadia related content or just gaming content in general, because we do everything here, but we do primarily focus on that to be transparent. Click the subscribe button, turn the bell notification on so you stay up to date with new videos on this channel. Of course, hitting the like button helps me out, helps other people find this channel just like you did. Now, back at the beginning of the year, I just said we did a video discussing things that Stadia needed to do succeed in 2020. Now, to be fully transparent, this video was to decipher what Stadia Base needed to succeed in 2020. And if that is a weird term to you and you're not familiar with it, back before Stadia was a free console in the cloud, it did have a free tier planned, but they had it called the Stadia Base at the time. So just to kind of get that out of the way, because I will mention it in the video that we're going to react to here. Now, full disclosure as well, this is me at the beginning of my content creating career. Not that I've gotten much better at the cringiness. This is ultimate Brian at his cringiest. So I just want to point that out there. A lot of this maneuvering stuff. And for some reason, I sound like I'm out of breath. I don't know why. But I make some good points in this video. I do want to touch on it again for a certain reason, because I think Stadia has definitely hit on some certain points I think is worth noting. So without further ado, let's listen to old Brian talk and see what future Brian, aka me, has to say about this guy.
So if there's one thing in the world that is really popular right now, it is Google Stadia. Everyone is talking about it. Everyone's saying things about it. And
Bad
people
joke.
love to hate
Worst
Stadia.
joke.
Okay, so Google Stadia has promised that there's going to be a pro version and a base version, or a free version. So essentially, it is a free console that you can play any of your favorite games on. And we are here almost 2.5 months later, and you still have to pay $129 to get involved with Stadia and or know someone to give you a buddy pass. But
just quick side note, if you have no idea what the hell I'm talking about when I say buddy pass, back in the day when Stadia did launch, founders were given something called a buddy pass, which is a code they could give to a friend, and they could jump into Stadia for 3 months for free and kind of actually use the platform like the founders were using.
there is no base tier yet. There's no free version. There's no way to really try out Stadia without plunking down a lot of money. And, well, we've been told it's supposed to happen in 2020. When? Don't know yet. But what I am here to discuss is when that does come out, we're going to have 5 things we want to talk about Stadia Base that they will need to help Stadia succeed in 2020.
Little throwback here. Party ball.
Now, if you're a fan of Google Stadia or me talking about Stadia in general, don't forget to click subscribe, click that bell notification so you get notified when we go live with new videos. And even when we do our live podcast every week, which I've been trying to do towards the weekend, Fridays, Saturdays, it's kind of just been random when I do it. So definitely have that bell notification turned on so you do get notified when I click live. Now, I've been loving Stadia for the past 2 months. It's been awesome. It's been awesome to be in my living room and play some Destiny and just say, you know what, I want to come back in here to my computer and play instead. That's awesome. I've always said it's like Switch-like experience, and it's always going to get better when the iOS apps come out and the Android apps come out, and I can play on my phone and all that kind of cool stuff.
Good timing for me to do this. There's a bigger
thing that needs to come out, and that is Stadia Base. Now, the general public does not like Stadia, or they're not giving it its best opinion because, well, they just haven't had the ability to try it out yet.
Which is a valid point back then, because Stadia was viewed as the redheaded stepchild, if you will. And I can say that because I'm redheaded. But it still has this stigma to it that people are just not willing to try it out. However, of course, I'm going to get into this in just a little bit because I know what past Brian will be saying in this video. So keep that in mind, but good points here.
I'm here to tell you, Google, this is what you need to do to help Stadia succeed in 2020, because right now people don't like you very much, and it's not fair. You're right. It's not fair that people don't like you because, well, they haven't had a chance to try and play with you. That's fine. Now, that was weird that I just said it like that.
Another bad
joke. The
joke.
point is, Stadia Base has 5 things it needs to succeed in 2020. Number 1, it needs a release by March. Now,
wasn't too far off here. It released in April. this is kind of a weird moment because I wasn't sure after kind of thinking about this video after it did release and this was pre-pandemic that I recorded this video, so that's something to keep in mind too. So was Stadia Base or the just Stadia in general meant to be coming out before April, or did the pandemic end up pushing it back, or did it even push it up? Maybe they had planned to release Stadia around July or so, because they did have a July Connect. That could have been the time that they were initially thinking about bringing the platform to everybody, but April, I mean, that was like the height of the pandemic for a lot of people. So I think that was kind of an opportunistic move at the time. The Stadia initiative started around that time, which is the 6-person podcast I do with Eddie, Meg, Chase, MM2K, and 64. And I asked back then, this was before the free tier launch, was should Stadia release it, or would that look bad as them trying to take advantage of the pandemic and stuff like that? Obviously, I was wrong because I didn't think it would have been a smart move, and I was wrong. I was wrong. But I go on to talk about that. Well, let's just listen.
We assumed that Base would probably come out around the February time, and while it still can, we have no word on it yet. And the reason we assume that is because that's 3 months after our trial ends for Stadia Pro. And
when I say our founders got access to Stadia on November 19th, 2019. Some founders did. I didn't get my kit and my code until 2 days after that. That was another video I did that was me angry. But that's kind of why we talked about, when I say we, like the Twitter community, the Reddit communities, talked that February would probably be the time, because that's when everyone's pro trial was ending. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that we should have been right or could have been right. It's just that that was just the best guess we had to go at the time.
Of course, there's no reason why they'd have to release Base at that point. They can just continue us on a base tier or continue to charge us $9.99 a month instead. But we'd assume it makes sense. A little 3-month launch window, kind of get the idea of, okay, this is what our servers can handle. But I think it's time for them to say, you know what, let's turn it on. Let's see what we can really handle here. And let's let Base finally make its way out there. Now, one thing Base needs to include, and I'll include it in this part because I don't think it's worthy of its own point, is they need to give new members a free month trial. Now, this is pretty much the norm for literally anything.
I nailed this, obviously. So Stadia does do free month trials. They've done plenty of 3-month promo trials with like Chromebook perks, Google One perks, and just anything. So many different things. I think Verizon might have done something. I think some other just random telecom companies have done some other kind of promos as well. But that's a typical trial that you will see with any kind of subscription-based services. You'll get the 1-month trial to start things out. What I was wrong about, I don't talk about it in this video, but I didn't think they would have free access for just games in general, which is awesome. Again, I didn't think it was a smart move business-wise at the time, but kind of looking back on it now, hindsight's 2020. It's a smart move, letting people try it out without having to submit any kind of info to be able to see if it works on their system.
Either get at least a 1-week trial, 2-week trial, or a 4-week trial in the form of a month. With any new subscription service via an online cloud-ish kind of thing, so you got your Netflix, your Hulu, Disney Plus, everything gives you a trial, so you can say, you know what, this is cool, but I don't want to continue. This is cool, I do want to continue. Let me give you money so I can keep doing it. Or it gives them, it's a little different because Stadia works differently than those other services. Now, Netflix doesn't have a free tier, so you can't, watch Netflix with commercials or anything like that. But Stadia will be a little different. So what they will need to include when it hopefully launches by March, because sooner is better than later, is I'll go with a 1-month pro trial. Let's go with a 1-month pro trial because that's pretty much what is the norm. And this will allow people to play games on Stadia without having to commit any money. And this will allow them to get people to maybe buy games, and it may let them want to buy pro memberships. Now, my initial thought back in the day before Stadia launch was they should have free-to-play games for this exact reason. But when you think about it, the servers do get locked up if there's a enormous amount of people playing on it. Of course, I don't know that from experience playing Stadia, but I would assume because, just like anything else running on an online server, that's just how it works. So free to play may be a better thing for pro subscribers only instead of, just anyone, because then you have people just kind of leeching off the service and blah, 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 blah. So a 1-month pro trial would be good. It will let people claim a game like Tomb Raider or Destiny 2 and see how it plays for them If it plays good. Maybe you'll have a new subscriber, or at the very least, maybe you'll have someone buying a game on Stadia, which is what they ultimately want, is people just buying stuff for Stadia. So launch it by March and include a 1-month free subscription.
Well, I mean, they did launch it with a pro trial, of course. Actually, they launched with 2 free months. Back in April when it did launch, you got a free month and a bonus month. It was kind of their way to give back a little bit during the beginning of the pandemic. Even people that were currently subscribers to Stadia were getting an extra month as well. So, I mean, in my first year of Stadia, I think I paid for maybe 5 or 6 months, and I've been a pro member since it launched. So that's pretty incredible value for a day one adopter, I think. But Stadia was quick to give people an extra perk to consider their service. Like I said just before, I kind of went on the point there in the past that they've added free-to-play games, which I knew was going to happen eventually, but I didn't think that you would be able to play without a pro subscription. Now, there's a precedent set out there by, I believe, I think PlayStation it's PlayStation or Xbox. One of the other does not require you to be a Xbox Live member or a PlayStation Plus member to play free-to-play titles. That just does. They don't require you to. One of them does. I can't remember which, but that's why I thought the Road Stadia was going to go on, specifically because you don't have to pay for any equipment to Google to use Stadia itself. So that's why I thought they're going to do it, and that's why I thought it made the most sense to do it. But theoretically, if you're just a Destiny 2 player, you don't have to pay a damn thing to play Destiny 2 on Stadia, and it's right there for you to go. That's an amazing value. Of course, you'd be playing Destiny 2 vanilla, so you'll have to pay extra for DLC and expansions. So there's some way that Stadia can recoup some of that money through the profit split with Bungie if people were to buy DLC expansions. But fact of the matter is, people can jump in and play without spending any money. They can also test out the service, and that's a good way for people to demo it, because it's a very, very new technology that people still don't necessarily trust. But you give them the options to test drive the car, and they say, oh my goodness, this is amazing. Let me sign that loan right there so I can get this game. I just mixed 2 analogies there into one. But point I'm trying to make here is Stadia, I think, did the right thing, even though in hindsight, I didn't think they were going to do that, or it would have made sense. So, I mean, that's why I don't run Google, and why much smarter people than me do it.
Number 2. So this goes back to one of my very first videos when it came to covering Stadia. Stadia needs to have sales for base members. It is absurd that so far we're assuming, because we haven't been told different, because they said sales for pro subscribers.
This is weird. So obviously at the time of this video, the only people that were using Stadia were pro subscribers, because you got the 3-month trial for playing, or for being an early adopter. So it didn't make sense, I guess, at the time for there to be non-pro sales, but it was a concern for people. If you were considering dropping the pro trial but still want to use Stadia, it's thinking, okay, so I'm never going to have access to a sale. I have to be a pro member, because there was the wording within certain documents or certain marketing materials that Stadia would be using that you get certain deals as a pro member. Now, it would make no sense to just give pro discounts and nothing for anyone else, because Xbox and PlayStation, they do discounts for everyone, and they do a higher discount for their members. So it makes sense. And that's pretty much what Stadia does, kinda. Well, I mean, they do, but they also have just deals for everyone where it's literally the same for everybody. And they also have stacked deals. So if you're a pro member, you do get that percentage bump. And if you're not a pro member, you have less of a percentage in terms of how much you'll save. So there's not much for me to actually listen for us in the past. So let me see if I can just skip through this part.
Pro members, yes, they shouldn't be punished for being base members. And I think when you look at it that way,
and that's kind of my point, is that it would have made no sense to de-incentivize non-pro members just because they're not pro members. So, I mean, at the time, like I said, we weren't sure if they're going to be sales for non-pro members, but we had no way to know otherwise. So, yeah, it would have made no sense to do that. And it would alienate half of the audience, or more than half, or a quarter of the audience, whatever the percentage would have been.
And the members only get a better sale. And that's what PlayStation does. It's what Xbox does. It's a smart move, and it allows you to incentivize a pro membership, but it doesn't punish you for not doing it too. So you can still get like a 10% off deal on, say, Borderlands 3, but if you were a Pro member, you get a 33% off deal. Like, you should be able to have some.
Or you could have bought the Ultimate Edition for about $10 last week. Awesome, by the way. How amazing is that? 2K did something really cool over the last week or so, and that's pretty much offering their top titles on Stadia for $11 or so for dirt cheap. That's amazing. Borderlands, the entire collection. Awesome.
Kind of a tiered system for base members, so they're not punished for being base members, and it'll still incentivize them to purchase games on your platform because you're still offering them sales, and it makes you more competitive with the market when it comes to Xbox and PlayStation and Nintendo and Steam and Origin and Epic Game Store and all these other launchers and all these other systems that are competing against you for the same space. Be competitive and offer sales to those base members. Number 3, and this is kind of a selfish one on my part because this is not just for base members, but is necessary for everybody. Complete Android and iOS support needs to happen by the end of 2020. Now,
and we have it, kind of. Ish. Most Android devices are supported at this point, which is good. If they're not officially supported, you have the ability to toggle a tab in the settings on your Stadia app, which is known as the Experiments tab. You click it and you should be able to swipe it over and test it out if you aren't a supported device. If you are a supported device, it won't let you toggle it. It'll just say your device is supported. But most of the mainstream flagship devices are supported by Stadia on the Android ecosystem, as long as your software is up to date to a certain specification. iOS, however, Apple's weird with their App Store policies. So if someone like Google or Microsoft wants to bring an xCloud or Stadia to the Apple App Store, which they have the store-facing apps, but they don't actually have the ability to play them. They would have to individually submit each game to the App Store for rating, and so it can be ranked within the App Store itself. Of course, Microsoft and Google aren't going to do this because they would have to bug the pubs and devs to do this, to submit it specifically to Apple for being rated, although they are already rated by the ESRB, PEGI boards, everything else that goes through the whole rating systems when it comes to games. So it's just an extra an extra step that is unnecessary. So the way that Apple will, I guess, let someone like Stadia bring their apps to the ecosystem is through a PWA app, which is through the Safari web browser. So you are now able to play Stadia on iOS devices through the Safari web browser. So it's an amazing piece of technology. I haven't had the chance to test it out. I don't have an iPhone at this moment. You'll see me here in this video hold up an iPhone. At the time, I did have the iPhone 11. Fantastic phone. But of course, I just kind of like switch back and forth just to have something new every year or so. But this is good news that Apple is now officially supported-ish with Stadia, because this is big, because it's a huge market. And I'm going to kind of explain why here in the past.
And the recent community update, Stadia in the new year, we got word that Android support is planned for Q1 or close to Q1. That's good. Android support makes sense because Google owns Android and it should be there first. It shouldn't really be that big of a problem for them to unlock that fully. In fact, some people can kind of do it now, but iOS support needs to follow, because here in the States, iOS has a huge market share, and maybe across the world, Android is far more popular. Of course, Android exists on more platforms, yes. But no denying, here in the States, Apple has a very nice stranglehold on the user base in terms of who, what phones people are using. You know, I'm using an iOS device. Of course, I kind of go back and forth, but it's not here or there. Point is, people have iOS, people have Android, and Google's point is they want to get Stadia on as many screens as possible. So they need to make sure that Stadia is available on every possible screen they can make possible. There's a lot of possibles in 2020, because that is going to be big. It's going to give people a Switch-like experience that I think is huge. And obviously the Switch is doing pretty well. I own freaking 2 of them for some reason. So
almost bought a third one this year.
Google, make sure that iOS is definitely in the cards for this year, because it's going to matter. It really will matter. Number 4, Google needs to land a big AAA mainstream title. Do they have AAA titles right now? Of course. That's pretty much the entire.
All right, so here's kind of what I was referring to earlier that I would discuss now. So they need to land a big mainstream AAA title. This is probably the most important thing I touch in this specific video, because what have we seen over the last couple of weeks since December 10th, the release of Cyberpunk 2077? been one of the biggest controversies I think I can ever remember in all of gaming. The last time I remember something blow up so hard was Star Wars Battlefront 2 and its anticipated release for Xbox One, PS4, and PC during its release by EA. There's plans for some super microtransactions for that game, and it just got obliterated by the gaming community, which Cyberpunk's seeing something similar, not because of microtransactions, but for technical reasons. The game has not performed very well at all on the mainline consoles, so your Xbox Ones and your PS4s. It's not done very well on those consoles. However, thanks to mainstream media and, of course, people like us that would be showing it off, Google Stadia has gotten a huge bump in interest because of Cyberpunk 2077 specifically, because if you want to play this game on a PC at a very, let's just say, decent fidelity, decent technical fluency, I guess is the best way I want to put it, it's kind of hard to do that on a PC in terms of cost. With Stadia, however, there's really no cost at all. As long as you have something to connect to Chrome, your phone, a tablet, Chromecast Ultra by chance, and the Stadia controller, you're good to go. Chances are, if you're not a Stadia user, you wouldn't have had the last two, but it's been a very positive thing amongst a negative shitstorm, to put it bluntly. CD Projekt Red has not looked very good during this whole situation. However, this game being as big as it is, a lot of people bought the game, and then Stadia, of course, did a marketing blitz by sending Premier Editions with every Cyberpunk 2077 purchase up to a certain point, which they ran out here in the States about a day after Cyberpunk release. So the demand was extremely high for Cyberpunk on Stadia. I had a tweet on my Twitter at Brian Evolved that showed my entire friends list on launch day at about the time the game came out. Everyone except for one person who was playing Doom Eternal was playing Cyberpunk 2077. I've never seen this on any day for any game ever where everyone was literally playing the same game except for one person. Won't name names, but they're playing Doom Eternal. So it was really cool to see, and it was also just another piece of evidence showing that more than 5 people play on Stadia, by the way. But it was a big day, and it's probably one of the biggest markers of success for Stadia because of how positive the reaction was to people playing on Stadia. Yes, there's bugs and glitches in certain aspects. You might see chopsticks floating, like that was my first thing I noticed on the Stadia version, but you're not having these huge technical issues that you would see on the other consoles. So it's your cheapest option to look and play at a normal rate that you normally would. Of course, CD Projekt Red has continued to fix the game, but it has been one of the biggest positive moves, ironically, for Stadia, considering how bad the game has been received in the general public in terms of how it's performed. It's been one of the best things to happen to Stadia, which is kind of weird when you put it that way. But the point I'm making in this video had nothing to do with Cyberpunk. In fact, Cyberpunk was already announced as coming to the platform, but even then when I did this video, I didn't think I realized how important this game was going to be just to gaming in general. And at the time this video was made, I believe it was still supposed to come out in April. So we were just a couple months away from the game coming out. But I didn't think it was going to have that big of an impact. And the delays might have actually been a blessing for Stadia. Had it released in April, again, that might have been the whole reason that the free tier came out in April, is because Cyberpunk was initially slated for April, I believe, if I remember right. So I don't know, a lot of moving pieces, a lot of things I don't think we'll ever find out about in terms of like, at least on the Stadia side. We might know more about the history and story about Cyberpunk in the future, just from employees and whatnot. But continuing on from what I'm about to talk about, like I said, Cyberpunk was not in my mind. Call of Duty, Madden, and FIFA were the ones I'm going to eventually cite here. And we don't have Call of Duty, but we do have Madden and FIFA announced. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's going to happen by the end of this year. But they were announced, like I said, so it's good news.
Service has is just AAA titles. Of course, you have your Thumper, you have Guilt would be another one. You have a couple that aren't AAA titles. You have your Borderlands, you have your Destiny, you have your NBA 2K. You do have AAA titles, but you don't have the mainstream AAA title that people will always buy year after year. And we're talking Call of Duty, we're talking a Madden, we're talking a FIFA, we're talking a game that is going to matter to a lot of people. Destiny, it's a niche game. Borderlands, also a niche game, but they're also just kind of just shooters. Now, they need a big title to entice people to come over to Stadia. And it's possible that the 120 games that are coming to Stadia this year might include 1 or 2 or maybe more of those. But the fact is they need a AAA title to A, be taken seriously, and B, to grow that user base, because trying to find a match in a lot of these games that Stadia has right now,
which Cyberpunk has done. It's definitely grown the user base by a lot.
Best experience. It can take a while. Now, Destiny 2, it can take me a while to find a Rumble match in the Crucible, but if I go into Iron Banner or maybe Control or Gambit, I can have no problem. Go on to a different platform, I'll not have a problem finding any match anywhere, anytime, for pretty much any game.
Full disclosure, I can usually find Crucible matches a little easier than I could back when I did this video, but it's still kind of a challenge. If I jumped on the PC or Xbox, it's usually pretty quick.
And I can date years back. Like, I could go probably play Destiny 1 and not have a problem finding any Crucible matches. Would I do that? No. But AAA titles need to have an appearance in Stadia that matter. Doom Eternal, I think, is a great step in the right direction, because that is a game many people are excited for. I think a lot of
It's kind of a game I overstated, by the way. Doom Eternal did not have the impact I thought it was going to, but I don't think that was just a Stadia exclusive problem. It just, I don't know, it just seems like that game just got kind of forgotten over this year. And that was one of the big titles of the first half of the year.
Media users will be picking up Doom Eternal, myself included. So I think a lot of people would be very gravitated towards a AAA title that many people are going to play. So like a Call of Duty is definitely big. A Madden's big. And of course, I'm missing plenty of other games that could definitely fit that bill. But those are the 2 that come to my mind, because they're those 2 games that I would be interested in. So a big AAA title is definitely necessary for Stadia Base to succeed in 2020. Number 5, and probably most important to a lot of users just in general now, is better social integrations. And this kind of just encompasses literally everything when it comes to Stadia, and making it a much more social environment for people to play in. Messaging, that's a big one that's missing. Of course, Nintendo's been missing that for... Nintendo just doesn't get online. That's not here or there either.
I think I overstate this point, talking about social features. They're important, but I don't think they're your main catalyst to succeeding per se. It's nice that we do have messaging, but even then, the social integrations that I'm kind of referring to here still aren't there. You can share screenshots and video clips with Stadia's app, I guess, technically, but it just gives you a link to go to the Stadia website. You're still not able, at least on Android, to long press a picture and save it. You still can't do that with the video either. So to be able to record those locally to your device, you have to use your phone's actual screenshot feature to do just that. So there's a lot of things Stadia can do to improve from a social integration aspect, just from UI aspects in general. That's probably my biggest complaint about Stadia, and it has been since the very beginning, has been the mess of a UI. Fortunately, they've updated the website specifically, but still no search bar, for crying out loud. Over 100 games in the store, and you still can't search for a game. That's just kind of baffling, to be honest. But yeah, social integrations would be nice. So having a direct to Twitter would be nice. Facebook, YouTube obviously would be the big one. But we can do live streaming with YouTube connected to Stadia. So that's obviously something that many people were anticipating. We can now do that with any game. Once they integrate like a StreamYard setup like I'm using right now, where you can just have your webcam connected and it will just recognize it. Same thing with your microphone, which I think that part it already does, but the camera doesn't. Getting some overlays in there would be nice. So there's so many things that Stadia can do, but social integrations, it would be nice. And I don't think this is necessarily a point that makes or breaks Stadia, for instance.
But Google, a little bigger company, they should be able to kind of integrate it better. So better messaging, or actually have a messaging and all, a voice chat system that makes sense, party chat systems, of course, integration with YouTube will eventually happen. Of course, software has to, of course, initialize that as well. Of course, we need a better way to share our screenshots,
of course,
a better way to share our video clips, and of course, a better way to make those video clips. I don't want to have to just settle with 30 seconds. This is a gaming system in the cloud that is probably integrated with Google Photos already.
Fun fact, you can kind of circumvent that by doing the live stream thing I just mentioned before. Do a private live stream, and you can just kind of record your entire session and just go from there. Obviously, you can't retroactively record stuff, which kind of sucks, but that's another thing I wish they could do, is extend the length of clips. So if I want to just tape an entire quarter of NBA 2K, for instance, I could do that.
So let me just have this huge video clip that I want to share, right? If it's 5 minutes long, so be it, okay? But I should be able to also share that to Twitter. I should be able to just literally download it from Google Photos, or even the Stadia app, but you can't even do that. You have to screenshot something or use Google Takeout, which is just dumb, but whatever, all right?
It's a very convoluted way, by the way.
They need better social integration because people need to be able to share their experiences with Stadia. And doing so right now is a chore, is hard, and is very unintuitive, and they need to make that better. And of course, so many people have been wanting messaging, better voice chat systems, just better systems in general when it comes to just talking to friends or playing with friends. It's just not there yet. And if they don't have this when Base launches, it's going to upset a lot of people. All right, and those are 5 things that Stadia Base needs, but I'm going to add
there's more
for myself because I think it's also needed in a way, is that Stadia, or Google in general, needs to ship their controllers, their Premier Editions, to retailers. All right. So,
all right. So, I mean, that's pretty much the end of it right there. But again, that's probably something they didn't necessarily need to succeed, especially because this is pre-pandemic. Had I done this video post-pandemic, I probably wouldn't have mentioned this because people aren't going to stores as much as they used to, and just buying stuff online works. Although they kind of did this. So, I mean, I kind of predicted it. I mean, you can buy Premier Editions through the Best Buy website. Unfortunately, that's all you can buy. You can't buy controllers, and you can't buy them in the stores. You can get them shipped to the stores, but that's about it. So I don't know if that's something you need to succeed right away. It would help. I mean, having that front facing, especially during the holiday season, would have been really cool because there's a lot of empty shelves with PS5s and Xbox Series X's that people can't buy. But if they see Google Stadia, they might inquire about it and find out what it's all about and kind of go from there. But this is kind of interesting. I want to know what you guys think. Do you think these points are good points that Stadia should have, gone after to succeed in 2020? I think getting the big mainstream AAA title known as Cyberpunk kind of worked out for them. Although I think CD Projekt Red might be technically an indie company still. I don't know. But it's definitely a AAA level budget. So I want to know what you guys think. What do you guys think Stadia needs to do to succeed in 2021? I'm working on that myself, but there's a lot of things they can do. They need to strike while the iron's hot because right now they have a lot of positivity for the platform, and they can continue to build upon that heading into the new year. As of this recording, there is a lot of stuff in the Stadia store for sale. There's plenty of people you can watch talk about that. I'll link them in the description. But I want to know what you guys' thoughts are on this video that we just talked about, the steps they needed to do to succeed in 2020. Did they succeed in 2020? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. What do you want to see in 2021 from Stadia? And of course, if you like this video, hit that thumbs up because it does help us here on this channel. In the meantime, if I don't see you by the end of the new year, have a happy new year. Have a Merry Christmas. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we will catch you down the road. Thank you.